Hey, welcome back to Holt Garage. Thanks to all the men and women of uniform who have served or are currently serving. And also, shout out to the first responders. Alright, let's get right into it. Alright, so today we're going to show you how to change the main engine drive belt out on the 2019 Chevy Express. These vans have been around since like 1996. They're pretty reliable. This one has the 6-liter in it, but they're all pretty much the same. They usually have one serpentine belt, and then I think there is a smaller AC belt. This one's been squealing every time it rains, or if there's any moisture outside at all, like a dew or anything like that, this one's starting to squeal pretty bad. I don't know if it's the tensioner pulley or the idler pulley. It could be one of those as well. But we're gonna go ahead and start with the belt replacement. I'm hoping that that's gonna fix it. Let's get right into the tools. All right, so first off, I got my coffee, and then I got my Crocs on too, so anyways. So we're gonna basically start with the cheapest thing first. I was able to pick up a new belt at AutoZone. Like I said, it's a serpentine belt. You just wanna search with your type of engine. So like I said, this one's a 6-liter. If you've got the 4.3 liter, or you got the Duramax, or whatever engine you have, it's gonna be different. So, but I went to AutoZone. I like AutoZone. I've been using them, you know, for quite a while, but I picked up the Continental, and then here's the part number. I've got a Continental serpentine belt on my older truck as well, my 89 OBS, and it's probably got 20,000 miles on that right now, and it's done pretty well. But this one cost me, for the van, cost me $49. I did get a discount, so I got it for $44.54. We're gonna start with the belt, and I'm hoping that's what's gonna help fix it. And then we're gonna use some tools here. So I'm gonna use this 1/4 inch. This is all metric. These vehicles are all metric. So I've got my 1/4 inch sockets. I got my 3/8 sockets, 1/4 inch drive ratchet, 3/8 drive ratchet. I've got a 3/8 drive long extension. We're gonna use this on the fan shroud. And then this 15mm socket, we're gonna need that to loosen up the tensioner to get the belt off. This is just like a cheater bar that we're gonna put on there. This is a 1/2 inch drive ratchet. You can use a breaker bar, you can use whatever you want, but the tensioner is a 15mm socket. So this really long flathead screwdriver is gonna help us get some of those air cleaner clamps off. You've got an air cleaner box, and then just some other clamps. So we'll use that. We're gonna need a good light, and then get like a magnetic parts tray to put all your nuts and bolts in. You got everything kind of moved to this little cart here. If you don't have one of these, they're pretty cheap. You can get one, you can make one, but I like to use them. Kind of helps keep you organized. Also get like a coal miner's lamp or something. It's kind of what I call them. It's gonna help free your hands up so that you can do these jobs. So let's get right into it. So first, I'm gonna start by removing this. This is your coolant overflow. And this, I believe, is a 13mm bolt. You just got one here. These two little fingers just slide up under the cowl area here. And then this is just gonna come off and set to the side. We're not gonna disconnect any of these hoses. A lot of these people on YouTube are disconnecting all this stuff, and I mean, go for it if you want to, but these little special clamps right here, these plastic ones, they're gonna break. So I'm gonna try to not, especially in this cold weather, I'm gonna try to keep all this together. And then the less that we take off, the less we're gonna break, hopefully. So a lot of these bolts, I think this is a 10 millimeter actually. So get your 10 millimeter socket, we'll get this out, and then we'll move that to the side. Okay, so that was the one bolt. Like I said, we just kind of moved everything to the side. You don't want to like collapse these or break them, so just be real careful. This little drain tube here, it will pop out of that little socket right there. It'll kind of give you a little bit of room. Sometimes you don't have to, but we're just gonna set that off to the side. All right, so next we're going to remove this air cleaner box. You've got two 10 millimeter bolts right here, and then we're going to use that long screwdriver over here. Also, this mass airflow sensor, you do have to unplug this, so be careful. There's a little red safety clip in here. This one's broken because looks like somebody tried to pull it off without pulling the little red clip out, but that little red clip's missing on this one, but hopefully yours still has it. We are gonna, when we install this back again, we're gonna just put a safety zip tie on all this just to make sure it doesn't like vibrate out or something, but yeah. So mass airflow sensor, just put that out of the way. So I just tucked it behind that wiring right there. Just get it out of the way. Now we can go ahead and take this box off. This is really in the way right here, so we do have to remove this. 10 millimeter socket here for these two bolts. If you want, you can screw your hardware back in so that you don't mix up. So see how these bolts here, we're gonna have to take these off too. These bolts are black, these bolts are silver. If you don't want it to look like crazy, where you've got a silver bolt over here and a black bolt over here, or a mixed mass of hardware, you can screw these back in. Definitely looks a lot nicer when you put it back the way that you took it apart. So, plus these bolts are probably, the threads are probably a little bit longer maybe somewhere versus here, and you could puncture the radiator if you were to use that here or something. I mean, not all the time, but just kind of pay attention to where your hardware's coming out of. So we're gonna pull that back here. This little extra box thing, it will separate. You might want to take a picture of all these, where all these things are at, but this little box thing right here is setting on two little grommets right here, this back box, and it will separate from this. You just got to be careful. You can pull it out as one unit, but we're just going to go ahead and take it off right here. So make sure you don't drop those two little grommets right there. There's two little grommets that go back up in here. We're going to let that hang. And then we should have access to pull this off now. Okay. Same thing on the bottom here. It looks like we got two grommets. Yep. There are two little plastic fasteners right here. Just make sure that those are there, and if you do break one, it's not the end of the world. You can get one of these plastic fasteners on the, if you've ever seen the help aisle at the auto parts stores, they have these little plastic fasteners and you can buy them, they're cheap. So if you break one, don't worry about it. So the front of the air box is kind of free here. Let's go ahead and take this clamp here off. It looks like it's a little loose. So hopefully yours isn't. Alright, so we got that out. Okay, let's set this to the side here. We got room to work. Okay. let's go ahead and fully remove this. It looks like you've got maybe an air inlet temperature or something. If you guys know, let me know, but there's some kind of air sensor here, like a tube. So we're just gonna take that off. Take that loose. Okay. And then there's another clamp way back up in here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's just similar to this clamp here, but it's in the back. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to get that off with that big screwdriver. Just want to try to get as much as you can out of the way. It's really hard to see, but you can see it. If you really look, yep, there it is. You get a shot of that back clamp right there. So see that back clamp? That's on your throttle body there, or your, yeah, throttle body. So this screwdriver is a little bit too long. Let's get a little bit shorter one. So I got my little stubby flathead screwdriver here. We're just gonna go back here and get this clamp. I think I got it free. Let's see if it come off. All right, we got it off. Let's set this to the side as well. All right, so this is our, this is your throttle body here. This is the alternator. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to take this wire right here that runs across the shroud, and we're just gonna pull up on these clamps and try to get it out of the way, because we're gonna have to take the shroud off. So the way these are designed is it's basically a clamshell. You've got a lower section and then you got an upper section. This is your fan shroud. So to get the fan shroud off, we're gonna take these two 10mm screws out here, but this wire is kind of in the way. So we're just gonna pull the wire back. You can loosen that up just like that and open it. This other one popped off though. We aren't gonna disconnect the radiator hose, and this looks like a air conditioner line. Obviously we're gonna leave those connected. We're just gonna move them out of the way. But we're gonna have to pull this shroud off. Okay. So we got our upper radiator hose, and we're gonna move that air conditioner line, but just up out of the way. We might have to get some zip ties or something and kind of move those up out of the way. I don't know yet. We'll see. But for now, we're just gonna let them free hang. Also, the transmission dipstick and the oil dipstick and the oil fill tube, we're gonna take that bolt out right there. I believe that is a 10mm bolt as well. But first, let's get this. I think we're gonna have to take that loose to get the shroud off. But let's pop these shroud bolts off first and just kind of see where we're at. Okay, so I got these two 10mm black. There's two of them. There's two black 10mm bolts here for the top of the fan shroud. You can see that it's moving. However, if you look down here, there's got an overflow tube right here, that drain tube that goes in that slot right there. I don't know if you can see it. You want to take that off, and then you've got 3 bolts on each side holding the shroud on. So there's 1, 2, 3 right there, and then the top of the shroud will come off, and then the same thing on this side as well. You've got driver's side here, so there's a bolt, there's a bolt, and then there's a bolt. Pretty sure those are also 10mm. If they're not, I'll let you know. But anyway, the top of this fan shroud is going to come off. Also, on your oil dipstick, that's a 10mm, and then there's one back here with a stud on it that for your oil fill tube, and you are going to have to take that off. That's just a nut back there. just so that you can move these dipsticks out of the way and stuff. I'll put my finger on it. Right here, there's a nut right there, 10 millimeter, I think it is. You want to take that nut off. That's going to move all these little tubes out of the way so you can get this shroud off. Okay, so I had to get a 10 millimeter opening wrench to get that nut off, but we're going to go ahead and loosen it up here. This is kind of tedious, but you do have to move those out of the way. Okay, so I got that nut off, and then this is going to help me get. You gotta take that lower bolt off too. Okay, so we're back on these dipstick tubes. You got your transmission and your oil. I was able to get this nut off, however, I'm gonna have to remove this. It looks like it's a 13 millimeter bolt right here to get this oil fill tube out of the way. So it is an extra little bolt there that I didn't talk about in the beginning, but we're gonna have to take that off. Make sure and probably want to take a picture of where all this hardware goes so you can put it back. After getting that 13 millimeter bolt off of the bracket on the base right there, I was able to move these out of the way enough. But just be careful because your oil fill tube is gonna pop out of the valve cover like that. Make sure that you put that oil fill tube right back in that valve cover right there. See where the oil hole is? Just make sure when you put everything back that it goes back in that hole. Let's get some zip ties and kind of move these out of the way a little bit. If you got an extra set of hands, you might have somebody hold these out of the way. Maybe we'll just let them pre-hang actually and just see where we're at. Let's get this shroud off. Alright, so with this shroud, like I said, we've got 3 bolts on each side here, so 6 total. 3 10 millimeter bolts. So I got my long extension ready to get after these. These just have these little nut plates on them, so just be careful. Loosen that up, and then hopefully half of this little clamshell thing will just pop off. Alright, so I got all 6 bolts out of the top of the fan shroud here. And then also, like I said, I took these front 2 ones out, so 8 bolts total. Let's go ahead and get her out. Push these upper radiator hose out of the way. Just try not to break anything. Okay. So you do have these little rubber pads in here. This one did kind of come out, so just make sure you put it back. But that's what gives you that shock absorption for your, it just protects your radiator from rubbing a hole in it. But also, if these are bad, sometimes they get deteriorated, you can replace these, they're fairly cheap. And then that little, just kind of a little titty thing that goes back in that hole. But yeah, now we should have access to that belt. You can see your belt drive assembly here. So we're not going to take this fan off. You shouldn't have to. They do make a special tool to take it off, but we're kind of going to cheat and then just route the belt underneath here. But take a picture of your belt routing, and 9 times out of 10 it's going to be right. Even if the belt's bad, it's going to be right. So sometimes you'll have a little decal up here on the under the hood somewhere. This vehicle does not. I don't see one. But just get something offline. Whatever engine you have, 4.3, 6 liter, 5.3. There's a 6.6 Duramax. There's a lot of engines in these vans, so like I said, this one's a 6 liter. So you do have an idler pulley right here. This bearing can go bad and make it squeal. And you also have a tensioner pulley right here. This tensioner pulley can go bad, but we're gonna get our 15 millimeter socket and we're gonna loosen this tensioner up, and then this belt is just gonna fall off. So that's why it's good to take a picture of your belt routing. So alternator belt here, this is your alternator. Down there, it looks like that's your power steering. This is your water pump, idler obviously. And then over here, down low on these is your air conditioner, way down here. And then you've got your tensioner, and then the crank pulley's on the bottom. So maybe come from over here and you can see the crank pulley. The crank pulley is on the crankshaft on the very bottom of the engine down there. Kind of hard to see, but just take a picture of your belt routing, because once you get this belt off, it's like pretty long and you can put it on wrong. So but just make sure that before you loosen it. But to get it off, we're gonna get our 15mm socket here and our breaker bar, and this is literally gonna shove that belt over and loosen it enough to get the belt off. I got my 1/2" drive 15mm socket on there, and then when I take this, so lefty loosey, lefty tighten is what this is on the tensioner. So we're gonna have to go to the right to get our tension off. If your tensioner is bad, that spring in there, you're not gonna feel it. And that could also make your belt squeak as well if it's not getting proper tension. So there we go. So when we turn it to the right, now our belt's loose. See how it loosened up? See our slack down here? So I'm gonna turn it to the right, and then now we've got enough slack to get the belt off. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the belt off. Okay, so I was able to get the new belt on. I grabbed a hold of the tensioner, and then I also grabbed a hold of the idler pulley, and they seem normal. So if you spin it and it doesn't spin freely or makes noises like chatters and stuff when you got the belt off of either one of those pulleys, now's a good time to replace those. But now that we got the new belt on, I'm hoping that that squealing noise goes away. If it doesn't, I may have to pull it all back apart and look at either the idler pulley or the tensioner to see if those two are bad or not. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up and see. So before we fire it up, let's make sure that we got this oil tube. Let me get my light. We're gonna make sure that we got the fan shroud. I put the bolts back in for that. And then the oil fill tube right here, we just wanna make sure that we got that back in there so we don't blow oil everywhere. So let me get this bolted down, and then we're gonna check to see if we have belt squeal still. Okay, so I got the fan shroud back together. I was able to get our dipstick tubes and our oil fill tube back in. You can see the valve cover where that grommet is seated back there. On the valve cover there with that round, pretty much you can see that round disc, that rubber piece that's flush right there. You can see it's flush on the valve cover. That's what you want. You don't want oil spraying out. The 13mm bolt down there on that bracket, I got it tight. Just putting everything back. On this throttle body here, you've got this little titty thing that sticks up right here. So you just want to make sure that that slot lines up with that when you put it back. You don't want it cocked over to the side or to the left or to the right. You want it like dead center where that little protrusion is. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then also you've got that little air tube that goes to some kind of vacuum. It goes to the engine. You want to make sure and put that tube back on. I did spray a little bit of lube in here. PB Blaster. It's pretty good. Just put some of that on there. And then Now's a good time to clean your air filter also too. Or put a new one in since you've got it out. But we loosened up our clamp, and now I'm just gonna slide this on that throttle body piece. And then plug in my little air tube in on the side there. Probably want to put some lube on that too, but I didn't. I just cleaned this air cleaner. I have a K&N on this one. You have to clean it, and then you have to put that red dye in there, that oil. So I've already done that, but now's a good time to clean your air filter. Same thing on these. You might want to like clean these off and then put some lube on there. So we want our holes to line back up right here. And then we also, remember, we have to hook up this little box, this little back box, this air box thing. I don't know, GM, I don't know. But this is all one assembly. I found it easier to just go ahead and pull these grommets off. Those are kind of hard to put in, so let's put a little looby dooby on there. Okay, you can see that's gonna sit in there a lot better than me trying to fish that through the other way. Okay, I got those aft little box grommets. I put them back in. So now we're going to kind of do this together. All right, so these should just sit right in there now. There we go. These should just click in. Yep, just like that. Also remember, we have two little clips here that go into that shroud. And then don't forget to put your wiring back. But those two little fasteners that go on that shroud, should make sure I line those up good. And you're just gonna push down on it. Like that. I think it went in okay. Oh, shoot. I don't know where that goes.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, so I got it to pop back down. We're gonna tighten up this clamp here, these two 10 millimeter bolts, and then our mass airflow sensor. We're gonna plug that back in too. And then, like I said, that little clip broke on this one, so I'm just gonna zip tie from the back of here. Probably won't show y'all doing that, but just to make sure that it doesn't vibrate out. All right, so we got it all back together. We're gonna shut the hood and start it up and see if we have any more belt squeal or pulley squeal. All right, let's see what happens. All right, so I have my wife get in. She's gonna fire it up. So it sounds pretty good. Looks like the belt might have fixed it. I'm hoping so. Sounds pretty good, so we're gonna call that a win, hopefully. Hey, thanks for watching this. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to. But I hope this helped you guys out. This did fix the van, the squeal, so I was kind of tired of that. I'm glad we got it fixed. The belt honestly isn't that bad. You guys can do it. I chose to do it on a cold day. You guys can do it on a warm day. Probably be easier, but I didn't break anything, so I'm glad. But I mean, get out there and do it yourself. 50 bucks, you know, get a new belt. So I don't know if you guys take your vehicles anywhere, but this should, I mean, this should help you. They'll probably charge you $300 or $400 at an automotive place, so. But you guys can do this yourself, it's easy. So hope this helped you out. Thanks for watching my videos. Check out the battery replacement for the van as well, if you would like. But I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.